Alright, welcome to the final installment of the business strategy game. Let's take a look to see what really happened. Now, you guys know, at the end of the last section for the year 20 decisions, we were trying to figure out what exactly to do, and you guys saw my strategy. I was really trying to predict where everyone was going to go and what they were going to do. You guys know that card company basically bowed out. I was assuming they were either going to raise, well, they had to raise their prices. They didn't have the capacity to pick up any additional sales. And I was assuming that the BZs were going to not be the capacity leaders, and they would have to pick their poison and figure out where to play. But I'm going to warn you guys right now that the number one thing you want to do if you're going to be good at this game is to read, reread, and reread the strategy guide. Now, leading up to this year, there was something that happened in the market that I didn't know to take advantage of, and that's really my fault. So, let's see. If you look at what happened here, you'll see that Cart Company in year 19, they sold capacity, right? Now, I saw that, which means I knew that capacity was going to be on sale. Now, we bought capacity in this year. We did not know they were going to sell their capacity, so this wasn't actually up and available last year. And the way that we understood capacity purchase is that you purchase capacity, and you can't use the year you purchase it. You have to wait until the following year. That was just how the rules of the game were. We weren't thinking about the logical reason for that. The logical reason for that is because what you're building when you build production is you're building new capacity. So that means they have to go into your facility and either remodel, remake your facility, or they have to break ground on additional expansion space for your facility or constructing a new plant somewhere. Basically, you're talking about new real estate. There's new development that needs to happen. And so, the fact that you got a loan for it this year, that means you can go pay people to go work on it over the course of the year so you can put it online in the next year. That's what happens, over here when you're looking to build capacity, which is what we've always done, right? Building capacity. Now, it's different from when you purchase capacity. Purchasing capacity means that the capacity was already built somewhere else. It's already outfitted for what you're looking to do, which is to produce shoes. And you just want to move in. It's like having a move-in ready house. So you can move in that same day and start making waffles the same day. It's pretty amazing. So that's something to think about and to keep in mind based on your strategy. Now, it's not something that I knew at the time, and that was problematic. Mostly because I had forecasted that going into year 20 that we would be the capacity leaders. Which is the reason why we only built, what we didn't max out on our own capabilities for our capacity. We wanted to do that so we could keep our credit rating good. So we really wanted to be able to come in here and compete with all available ways to get points. We just didn't think we could win on image, but we felt pretty strongly that if we kept our borrowing to a minimum, that we could come in and we could do well when it came down to our credit rating as well, to really put BZs on their back foot. So I had a miscalculation though, because I didn't realize that the capacity that card company sold right here, that all of this could be purchased and put online in the same year. But guess who knew that? The BZs knew that. They actually picked up this capacity right here. And cart company seems like a bought back some of their capacity. I don't know what happened. But they picked this capacity right here, and they became, again, the capacity leaders going into year 20. Now, this really did end up being problematic for us. And the reason being is because we had assumed that with them not having additional capacity, that we were going to see a year similar to last year. So we really overstocked. Now, it worked out well for us, and you can see the fact that they still did stock out, which means they still didn't have the ability to forecast for anything And they were pursuing a market leadership strategy. I mean, well, I don't know if they were actually pursuing the strategy here, but yeah, they did raise their prices. So maybe they weren't pursuing a market strategy here. They're looking for profits in North America, but they ended up stocking out because they were still the lowest in North America, and they didn't have any excess inventory. Whereas we made sure we put excess inventory because we knew that car companies didn't have any capacity, and we knew that we thought that BSGs were going to have less capacity. So you look at what happened in each region. We had enough additional capacity to pick up these lost sales, but if BSGs didn't have the capacity that they picked up, there would have been either much greater stockouts or much less they were going to be able to do as far as private label. And that really was what we were banking on with our entire strategy. The fact that they came in with that capacity really was problematic for us. Again, car company continued to stock out. We got additional sales from that. Having raised our prices was a good deal for us. We were able to get more profit for each pair sold, and because there was still a demand that wasn't met elsewhere, we were really able to maximize our profitability on that. And then in Latin America, we really raised our prices, which dropped our market share quite a bit. But everyone else stocked out, so we were really able to come in and pick up some additional sales, and we stocked out eventually. We were not able to pick up any more of those sales, so we just ran out of inventory. So, yeah, if we had known that we were going to have this much unfulfilled demand in Latin America, we would have moved quite a few of these up to the brand, and we just didn't have that foreknowledge. So, if we were moving the game forward, if this wasn't the final year, we definitely would have looked at doing that and pushing it forward. So, looking at where we ended up, you'll see that with the BSG's additional capacity, they were really able to pull in the revenue. So that wasn't a problem. They were making sales. One thing that you saw though is they really ended up with quite a bit of market share. I'm going to tell you guys right now, market share does not equal profit. So what ended up happening was they got more sales. They ended up having a higher cost of pairs sold, but really it was actually it was about the same as ours, just given the sales, right? So the percentage is about the same. Cart company had a high cost of pairs sold as far as percentage of their revenue, so that's interesting. But really what you see happening here with the BSGs is in order to make those sales, they advertised heavily. Their marketing expense was a huge percentage. They were clearly the leaders as far as marketing spend, and that ended up factoring heavily into the fact that they ended up with lower net profits. So even given all the additional sales, we still have more profits than they did. And we had a higher dividend payment. We're just an all-around more solidly run company from a financial standpoint. And those are things that I'm not sure if they were looking at as closely as we were. I'm not sure they were looking at it as heavily as we were. I know they have more cash on hand, so it's a lot they could have done. But they just chose not to work on the financial end of things. It looks like. I can't say for certain. We're gonna have a roundtable discussion tonight, so we're all gonna sit down and talk about where things ended up and how they ended up that way. So I might have more information for you guys as far as how this game shook out and what actually happened tomorrow. But that's where we're at right now. So how did things actually end up? Well, we're still number one. So we were number one for year 20, and I'm excited to report we were number one overall. So the game ends with us beating BSGs by 1 point. 1 point. It should have actually been a much bigger spread, and there were a few things that prevented us from being able to execute our strategy. Our strategy was set in year 17, and Cart Company was still in the game at that point. So we had our strategy set, assuming that Cart Company was going to be in the game and soaking up some of these sales. When Cart Company bowed out, that threw everything off and basically made it a drag race between the BSGs and us, and we were not prepared at all. Not with our activity systems map, not with anything really for that kind of situation. In fact, let me show you our activity systems map. My my partner actually put this together. It looks pretty cool. Hang on one second. Alright guys, so this is our activity map. This is what my partner Steve had been put together, just to show you guys what our goal was and how we were trying to get things done. So really everything kind of came into maximizing our earnings per share. It's how we made most of our decisions. Everything on his part was really looking at how we could maximize our earnings per share each and every year. And my decisions were really trying to figure out what the risks inherent in that were, what the competitors could do that could hinder us from being able to achieve our earnings per share, or what moves we could make that would hinder them from achieving their earnings per share, depending on what we needed to do at the time. My strategic idea of this game was very similar to a video game back in the day called Road Rash. And really what it was a street race on motorcycles, where instead of doing just a normal drag race, a normal street race, you could grab pipes and chains and who knows what else and beat people up if you rode around the city on motorcycles. So what I was thinking of is, when it comes down to building a company, of course you want to build the best product, you want to find the best customers, you want to make the most profit and dig out your market share and everything else. That's the racing aspect. But in the event that your competitors decide to make a move that infringes on your marketplace, you might have to smack them a little bit. That's just how I looked at it. We were never afraid to do it, and it worked well in our game. I can't say that it's a smart idea. Some companies aren't going to get sucked into that. Hang on one sec. Some companies are not going to get sucked into that. They're just not going to end up playing that game. But the BZs would. We knew that from when we launched that plan in year 13 and how they responded to it. So we knew we kind of had them hooked in that way. They were going to go ahead and come down the rabbit hole with us, and that allowed us to really do some unique things from a competitor standpoint, not necessarily from a business strategy. Well, it is business strategy, but it's more just knowing your competitors. So let's take a look at how it all shook down. The earnings per share, we not only did we beat them, but we had a much greater 3-year average than they did. Every year in the last 3 years we were beating them as far as earnings per share. That was mostly Steve. Steve did a lot of work on that. For the return on equity, yeah, we came in here with a pretty heavy lead as well. And for the stock price, again, they just weren't. We figured we were going to win on these measures. We didn't think it was going to be this close. We thought we were going to have a much greater gap. If they didn't get that extra capacity and put it online that year, they wouldn't have been able to even come close to us on these measures. We both ended up with a credit rating of an A+, so that was kind of a wash for us. And then as far as the image was concerned, we couldn't touch them. Especially with them being able to sell as many shoes as they did, we were thinking that we were going to be able to shut them out of some markets potentially, or they were going to have to take a lower price to sell out their inventory. But because they got that extra capacity, they didn't. That was really for us. That was the name of the game, was capacity leadership and being able to make sure that we had enough to fulfill the market share that we had. So that was critical. But really, yeah, what I had brought to the table in the final year was really understanding what they would need to do in order to be able to win, and making that those conditions set in the game. Hang on one second. So yeah, so that's really where we ended up. The final thing that I really wanted to show you guys, there's 2 things I wanted to show you. One was the celebrity endorsement screen, because as you can see, Cart Company had all the celebrities, and we didn't understand why they were paying that much for celebrities when they didn't have the capacity to fulfill whatever sales they got from the celebrities. Not really that interesting. The other thing I wanted to talk about was really what you get when you win, and you end up getting a cool little certificate, just showing that you're the industry champion. And then you get the ability to play in other games. I know they have games where you can join for I think like $24. You just email the people that run it, and you can get in here. But this is it, guys. We're the industry champions, and there's really nothing else to be said about it. We're gonna have a roundtable tonight to talk about what happened, and maybe I'll come back with some tips and tricks for you guys moving forward. Thanks a lot.